again, thanks for coming to our movie sharing and the talk on labor and resistance. And this event is co-organized by Genta Media and also Limlian Cultural Development Center. The short film we watched just now is actually is called The Beautiful Life, and it's actually a public-funded movie in 2012. And ACTI, the Association of Indonesian Migrant Workers, is actually one of the main contributors behind this movie. So we can see from the content of the movie, you can see it's very straightforward and it's kind of like the struggles and things that they have to face every day in their everyday lives. And right now, I would like to introduce our speakers of today's event, which is Annie Restari. She's an Indonesian domestic worker in Hong Kong who has been active in migrant domestic workers NGO since 2000. And she is also the founding member and former chairperson of Association of Indonesian Migrant Workers, which is called ACTI. And she is also a chairperson of United Indonesians Against Overcharging, the coordinator of Network of Indonesian Migrant Workers, spokesperson for Asian Migrants Coordinating Body, and currently also the chairperson of International Migrant Alliance. She will share her experience in organizing and empowering the migrant workers communities, not only to fight for their rights, but also to advocate for institutional change by challenging the policies at the legislative level. And I would also like to introduce another guest for today, which is Aviana. I think many of you might have heard about her story in, I think, since 2 years back. Yeah, 2 years back. She used to be a Indonesian domestic helper in Hong Kong as well. But when she was working there, she was heavily, seriously abused by the employer in Hong Kong until she lost the ability to work. And after that, her case has gone to the New York Times and many international media until it sparked a very huge migrant workers campaign, rights campaign all over the Hong Kong and also other Asian countries, mainly in Asian countries. And right now she has won the court case and the employer actually was sent to jail. So she might share some of her experience after the sharing. Welcome, Annie.
Terima kasih. Selamat petang. Good evening, everyone. It's very difficult. I don't speak Cantonese. That's my worst nightmare. So I apologize to speak in English. I was trying to speak Bahasa, but I think Bahasa is also a little bit different with Malay. So to avoid misunderstanding, I will just speak in English. So I thank you for the introduction. One thing that I would like to share tonight is the profile of the migrant workers in Asia. And you know, there is an ASEAN meeting in Malaysia, right? The next 2 days there will be big gathering of the state leader in Malaysia and will be hosted by the Prime Minister of Malaysia. And it is a big, the 2015 is a start of supposed to be ASEAN community. Now there are many people questioning what kind of community we are going to create, or this state leader going to create, while on top of that there are a lot of people suffering on the grounds. Not only the local, but if you see the life of migrant workers, you will not believe what kind of society is actually trying to be dreamed of by the state leader. So there is a tension within the ASEAN now, between what the state want and what the people want is also different. And some of us actually involved with the ASEAN People Forum, and we are trying to bring our voice inside. They will not like it, but doesn't matter. We have our own concern. So one thing I would like to share with you is about the reality of domestic workers in Asia. And because I'm from Indonesia, I will speak more into the case of Indonesia. So you know, the women migrants in Asia, the current number of the migrants in Asia is 54 million, and 50% of them are women. And the biggest source of sending country is actually Philippines and Indonesia. And in Malaysia alone, Indonesian is around 2 million already. Yeah, it's including the undocumented or what we call illegal workers. We don't call them illegal because no human being is illegal. No one is born to be illegal human in the world. So to be more precise, it is only they don't have proper document. That's all. That's what makes them illegal in the eyes of the government. And many of these people, including the women, are forced to live because of the poverty back home, because we don't have land, and also because we are the breadwinner of the family. And you know, when you are mother, you are taking care of everyone in the house. You don't take care of yourself. So if your children has no food to eat, you have to find a way of making them to eat. So this is the reason why many of the women are forced to leave the country. And also the fact that because of the globalization today, sounds good, there is a free market, but free market destroying our life, doesn't protect our economy, doesn't give my mother chance of decent living, doesn't give me chance of even good study. Everyone lost our life in the middle of our youthness. So this globalization, what we call it neoliberal policy and deregulation policy, when we say about this means everyone is the issue. All the state ownership become a private ownership. We're supposed to have ownership over our land, our water, our industry. Now everything is passed to the private company, and those private companies are owned by the multinational corporation. So my country, we live in our land, but we do not own our land. We have our resources, but we do not own our resources. And because of that, and more women, men are leaving the country. In fact, even my family are peasant. And when the crisis in 1980s started to shake Asia, then my mother was forced to sell the land, and she became a small trader. And 1997, Asian financial crisis shake again. She lost her market. She was able to maintain small space to sell things, but it's not enough anymore to bring us to the college. So the whole family lost our dream. And the only way to continue the dream of going to the college is for me to work abroad. It's the expense of all dream we have. And now all my family is everywhere. There is nothing to stay together. No job in the village. So my sister moved somewhere else in Indonesia. My brother remains unemployed, although they graduate from the university. So now the sending countries are mainly a set of Indonesia and Philippines, also Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Thailand. Now what we face reality, our reality is the wage of the migrant workers everywhere is actually very low. You will see in Singapore, this is the amount we have. This is monthly. Malaysia, I know you know better than me. So this is the statistic we have 2 years ago on the wages. Of course now that is a little bit increased, but come on, the inflation is so high. Our wage doesn't even cope up with the current crisis back home and also in Malaysia. And in Hong Kong itself is that one. So the story in the movie is actually talking about the underpaid. That means if the wage is 461, the woman there, how to say, Haryani, she was actually paid only $200 US. So even in Hong Kong, there is a minimum wage and labor ordinance. We are protected by labor ordinance. The wage is still bargainable. The employer can say how much, you know. So still, Hong Kong is not also well example of the protection. And in fact now, there is a lot of women and children being trafficked. You see the number, there are 200 to 25,000. This is in 1 year. And 1/3 of that is actually being, intentionally being traded off. And for 50,000, 45 to 50,000 women and children also victim of trafficking and to the United States. And very sad because 30,000 of them are actually from Asia. So now there are so many human smuggled. Chinese people brought to, Europe, Africa, not to say Canada, and etc. So it's not only the legal trafficking through the government selling the people, now is illegal smuggling of people become a common trend. So going back to where I come from, the reason why we are leaving our land is because of the poverty back home. Indonesia has 259 million people and 70 to 100 million are poor. So you'll see almost 50 or 40% of us. And that doesn't include the migrant workers and our family. We do not belong to the poverty line because they think we earn so much outside, so we are not poor anymore. And 65% are farmers, but many of them do not have their land. And a lot of us work in the very local job. So I try to work before I work abroad, but it's only enough to give myself food. I cannot even give my mother some money for her to do something else. So I thought that time, if I don't go somewhere for a better pay, how can I help them? How can I bring my two siblings to college? Maybe I cannot go to school, but at least they need to go to school. So that kind of a feeling we have. And this is the reason why, because the pay that we earn is not even enough. And very huge unemployment. 30% of our youth are not employed. It doesn't count the 10 million migrants outside. And the high basic living costs, I don't know whether you've been to Indonesia. Anyone been to Indonesia? Oh, what year you've been there?
20 years ago when I was teaching in Sabah, I went in Kalimantan.
Okay, you must go there again now. All the expenses is so expensive. Actually, some of ourselves, when we talk in Hong Kong, buying things in Hong Kong is cheaper than buying things in Indonesia. If you live in the town, you are dead, you know. And some of the food is actually cheaper in Malaysia than our countries. So that's the kind of, cost living we have. And also some political conflicts, especially in Aceh. Yeah, so a lot of people are moving to Malaysia because they are afraid of war, civil war. And also a lot of natural disaster back home. So many of them are forced to leave the land because they have nothing to live on. Just to give you a little bit background, the migration in Indonesia divided by two, before 80 and after 80. Before 80 are mainly men, highly educated. They went to Europe and Middle East. There is no government regulation. So it's like a free, a free market. But after 1980s, mainly women, low education, and we work in the unskilled type of work, which is plantation, construction, factory, domestic workers. And now the labor export is actually being controlled by the Indonesian government. So no one can go without the government knowing that. So now in 1980s, the Indonesian government actually create what we call it labor export program. Every 5 years, they actually declare how many million they need to send abroad. So it become a business itself. It's industry. It's no longer human needs to travel, but now the government needs the money from the migrants who are being sold abroad. So now they declare 1 million every year must go outside the country. That includes Malaysia, and that doesn't include the undocumented migrants or the illegal migrants. And also, they need our money, the money we send back to Indonesia is the second biggest after the oil. So that's why now all the more Indonesian government will never let go the program on the labor export because they need to live from our money. Without us, the government will be collapsed today. And also because of the poverty, there are a lot of criminal and social problems back home. So they think, well, send the youth abroad, they will work, they earn money, they are happy, government is happy. So this is the reason why they will not want to cut down the number of migrants abroad. And now we have 10 million people, 6.5 actually documented, the rest is undocumented. And mainly the biggest is in Malaysia, you know that, right? So Malaysia is our second home. My uncle was here for 10 years, undocumented. My cousin was here for 5 years, undocumented. And they are victim of Rela. They went to prison for 3 times also. So I met my uncle when I came here for the first time, like 7 years ago. And then because he was illegal, so he must meet me secretly. And it was very pity to see him in that condition because he was hiding. I must meet him at the night in this certain area, and he just bring me to the house, and the house is nothing except just one box of clothes. And he said, well, it's easy for me to run away if they arrest me. And it's like, oh my God, I thought I was already suffering enough. This is the people that all the more so, and this is all my family. So now I'm going to talk about the regulation from Indonesia. I think it's also important for you who are supporting the issue of migrants and trying to help the migrants to understand why there are so many brokers in between, and why the Indonesian government seems doesn't really care whether there are people are being trafficked, whether there are people being killed. They try to tell the world they are trying their best, but the truth of that, when you come to the embassy, please help the people who are victim of this company. They will say, okay, we'll try their best, but nothing is done. Okay? The reason is one, in Indonesia there is law 29, 2004. For us, this law is not to protect the migrants. It's actually legalizing the trafficking and slavery. Why? Because first and foremost, all responsibility of government for protection is passed to the agency. It's not the government. Government has nothing to do with the migrants. So if you have problem, if migrants have problem, you come to embassy and you ask for help, they will call the agent. If domestic helper come to the embassy, they will call the agent. Who is your agent? If you come by yourself to abroad, you have no agency, the government will say, well, it's not my problem. Find your own way to go home. And this is the reason why many illegal channel of going to Malaysia and Indonesia. Because those who come to Malaysia without agency, the embassy will not want to take care of their needs. And second also, there is what we call it one door exit. One door exit means everyone must go to the agency. Those who try to go abroad without agency is classified as illegal migrants. So me, I cannot go abroad myself. Even I found my employer, no way. Even I stay in Hong Kong 15 years, when I go home, I have to go back again. I must use the agency, because if not, they will say I'm illegal. So, and also, no matter how long you are abroad, you are not allowed to process your own document by yourself. So every 2 years, we must go to the Cukong broker agency. And now another thing is, all the fee of the process is our responsibility. It's not the government. No subsidy for migrants. Every cost of migration is us or our family must pay. And also, if we need protection, they will tell us to buy the insurance. So the government has no fund for the migrant workers. And there is no criminal punishments against the agency. So whether this agency already cheated thousands of migrant workers, there is no way for you to sue them under the law. There is no compensation. So that's why you see, if there are many groups like Tenaga Nita who has been handling so many cases, they are also frustrated because there is nothing they can do. Even they are not paid for several months, they will not be compensated under the law. So the role of the agency is comprehensive from the day we left our hometown until the day we arrive abroad, and until the day we go home is the agency. Okay? And what I said, overcharging is legal. No matter how much you pay, whether 10,000 US, doesn't matter, it's not illegal under the law. So a lot of our migrant workers here, the reason why they try to use illegal channel, because using a legal channel is so expensive. My uncle told me actually, I asked him, why do you choose to be undocumented? Can you choose to be documented? And then he said, I used to be documented. And then I left that. Why? It's too expensive. Every 6 months I have to renew. I have to pay my levy, I have to pay my insurance, I have to pay my blah 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 blah, and in the end of the day, how much left for me? And yet, doesn't mean I will have all the time my job. He works for the construction. If there is a job, I work. If there is no job, I don't work. How can I live? So it's okay, I can be undocumented as long as the money is for myself. At least I can send back home, I can rent a house, and I can be arrested, but it's okay. You know what I mean? So that kind of mindset they have, because they are very desperate already. So just going back to Hong Kong, where I come from, we have around 150,000 domestic workers. Malaysia is still the biggest, don't worry. Don't worry. Hong Kong is big, but Malaysia is the biggest. And many of us only secondary school. And the problem in Hong Kong is almost the same with Malaysia. The only difference is Hong Kong has labor ordinance and we are being protected by labor ordinance. But the rest of the country in Asia do not include domestic workers, migrant workers in the labor ordinance. And this is the reason why they have less rights than the others. And second issue, all countries in the world control migrants through immigration. So when you breach the immigration policy, means you are criminal. You will be arrested, you will be put into prison, and you will be deported. Sometimes you have to pay some money also. So practically, there is no protection for us, and yet we are seen as the enemy of the government, because when the undocumented is so many, they will just rush everyone, send back home. But the question is like this: is it true that Malaysia doesn't need migrant workers?
No, that's right.
Is it true? They seem to be very hypocrite. They don't like migrants, but they never endlessly import the migrants. Right? It's a question that you need to ask. Why? Okay, I'm not going to answer for that. So, what I would like to emphasize here is, because I involved with International Migrants Alliance, I meet migrants from Germany, from Turkey, from Europe, from Canada, Australia, US. And one thing is common, that the migration is the reality of today's world. We have 225 million migrant workers all over. And almost every society, they have migrants in their home, and also they are sending migrant workers, whether voluntarily or by force. Okay? Now, but migrant workers are being divided into different strata. Those who are voluntarily migrating, like a student, professional, but those who are become a victim of forced migration. Now, the victim of forced migration have no choice but to live within the rule of the receiving government and sending government. And this is the pain that we have, because while we do not belong to these receiving countries, we cannot also go home. Right? And many of us to become migrant workers, not only for 1 year or 2 years. I've been migrant workers myself for 15 years. The rest of my family, 10 years. The rest of my friends is almost 20 years. So half of our age is actually abroad. But we do not belong to that society because we are not given that entitlement at all. For receiving countries, we are always a stranger in this land. But we cannot go home because our own government doesn't want to create jobs back home. And this is the global phenomenon that we have now. It's not only in Asia, everywhere. And the second of the reality we have, the government of receiving countries still need the migrant workers, but they need cheaper, multi-skilled labor and temporary labor. So this is new type of new migration now. Skilled, cheap, and multifunction labor. So while the company are actually laying off a lot of migrants, local people, many of them are now importing new migrants with new requirements in terms of skill and temporary stay, and also disposable. One of the examples I'm giving you, Australia is now importing migrant workers only for 6 months. to be in the plantation worker and also in the farmhouse, the pet for the cow. And they only want 6 months. Why? Because they don't want to give them a permanent resident anymore. So every 6 months, they call it seasonal worker. And this is not only Australia, New Zealand also already introducing this stuff. Now, I do not know, Malaysia might be introducing. I just learned that there is new type of migrants from our friend. Now, it's no longer employer signing the contract. Now, the agency is the one bringing the migrants here, making them working for hours in different housing. New type of domestic helper now. Just send the migrant workers every day into different housing for cleaning and then give them monthly pay. But that means when the worker has a problem, they cannot sue the employer, they cannot also sue the agency. It is a part of the outsourcing of the migration. So that's what I would like to share with you today. But one thing that I would like to close my presentation, while the issue of migrant workers become very global, the exploitation become very deep and intense. The dignity of human being of migrants is no longer there. We are nothing, just a commodity. We are just a cheap labor. For the state, we are actually not a human being. But the resistance of migrant workers is also growing. The Indonesian who used to be very disempowered everywhere now is starting to organize. What you saw in the movie is part of our product. And then the migrant workers, they are no longer afraid to fight back in whatever way we can. Because we cannot take this kind of exploitation for too long. It is too long to be a human being. And because of that now, the migrant workers in the world has united ourselves, and we created International Migrants Alliance, where I'm the chairperson. We try to bring the voices of migrants in the global arena, to the ASEAN, to the UN. We want them to face the truth of the migrants. We don't want the government to run away and refuse to negotiate with us. So we become more proactive and putting the issue of the migrants on the table of the government, including the ASEAN. So of course there are a lot of challenges. They don't like us, we know that. And they also try to deny our presence, but we try to find means of engaging with the government. But beyond that, what we see very important is, I think everyone in the room can help on your own way. The one who made the movie is just a friend of ours. We know her for a few months, and he was a movie maker. This is how he wanted to help. The movie is not only to advocate the migrants' rights, but also to make the local people understand this is the suffering that we are getting, but also make the migrant workers understand, you know that the local employees, not all of them are rich. Many of them also are just common working people. They are good people, they just don't have money to pay you well. So this kind of mutual understanding and support will be also a way to look forward to help each other as a community of ASEAN and beyond that as a fellow human being in this earth. Thank you.
It's very short presentation. Maybe I can open to the floor for the first round of Q&A session. If anyone has something to ask. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hello. I would just like to add on. Thank you very much for the presentation. I would just like to add on a few, if I can just share a bit of Malaysian experience, because I do a bit of I do organizing work with migrant workers. I live in Brickfields. I live in a migrant community from small until now. So I live with Indonesians, Bangladeshis. I grew up with them, and these are my friends, my neighbors, my family. So I'd just like to share, if I can, a very quick one. I'm Nicole. I'm a writer. I do journalism. So my grandmother always tells me that the same ships that actually brought the Africans to their lynching fields as slaves in the United States is the same ships that brought
the Indians and the Chinese as migrant workers to Malaysia. So it is so easy to forget that actually all of us in this hall is actually products of migrants. Never a single time in Malaysia we have not been dependent on migrant workers. From colonial times, dependent on Chinese coolies and Indian coolies, right until this minute, this nation is dependent on migrant labor. And that's a recognition that I think we all need to do. The problem is, I think, the kind of mentality that we have in this country towards migrant workers needs to shift. The hatred we have. Every time during Hari Raya, for instance, in KLCC they would say, oh, it's flooded by migrant workers, dirty. Just recently a report was given in Cosmo saying that migrant workers bring tuberculosis into this country. Bear in mind the crime rate in Malaysia by the Home Minister himself says that migrant workers only causes 1% of the crime rate in Malaysia. 1% out of 100%, only 1% of crime rate. So this whole idea of migrant workers causing crime rate is false. Just 3 points, meaning the government recently did 3 things. It lifted the subsidy on rice for non-citizens, migrant workers, meaning that migrant workers needs to pay more for rice than we do. They plant our rice, do you expect them to eat sand? That's one thing that we ask. Secondly, a subsidy for migrant workers for hospital care. So if we have demam, dengue or so on, if we go to the hospital at the moment, we are actually able to go for a free treatment. Initially it was also for migrant workers, but now they have lifted that migrant workers have to pay 400 ringgit for the same care. Bear in mind, they pay more taxes than we Malaysians do. Every year they pay 2,300 Malaysian ringgit to renew their visa in this country. That is more income tax than we pay as Malaysian citizens in this country. That I think we have to bear in mind. The MRT project, which is still in play, kills so many migrant workers in this country, yet the project is still on. I do not understand why is this still taking place. 51% of the deaths in Malaysian lockups, in Malaysian police lockups, are Indonesian men. This is a fact. It's not Chinese, it's not Indians, it's not Malays, but 51%. They come to our country, they clean our roads, they build our homes, they clean our gardens, and what they do, their moms do not even get back the bodies of their children. Only 18,000 ringgit is paid by insurance if they're dead. 18,000 is nothing for a dead body. They migrate to their death. Just final point, I just want to just show this. I brought this today. This is actually a comparison between Malaysia and Hong Kong. Actually, Malaysia and Hong Kong is very, very different. The Labour Ordinance is a huge feat forward. For instance, the Malaysian Employment Act 1955 addresses, the Malaysian Employment Act of Malaysia until today considers foreign domestic workers as servants. That is the term used in the foreign domestic, the Employment Act of Malaysia. So when you do not employ them as workers, they do not get the fundamental rights in this country. During the Malaysian and, this is my final point, I'm so sorry. During the Malaysian and Indonesian agreement in 2009 when the Indonesian banned Indonesia to send domestic workers to Malaysia because of the protests in Indonesia, not because the Indonesian government suddenly got some spark. In 2011, it was lifted on the agreement that they'll get 1 paid day off, and also they will get to make sure that their passports are held by them. But until today, that is not employed because there is no any proper independent commission to look over this kind of things. So where do we go forward? Because a lot of political parties, including the Socialist Party of Malaysia, says that migrant workers are affecting affecting jobs for Malaysians. They say that Malaysians need to compete with migrant workers for jobs. It's because of migrant workers that the job money is so, the pay is so low in this country. And I do not think that that argument is right. They call for the increase of levy, but they do not talk about the levy still needs to be taken on the burden of the migrant worker themselves. It's not as if the employer will pay. So my question to you, which I'll end, is Jokowi recently stated that, Jokowi is the president of Indonesia, he recently stated that we need to bring back our women to Indonesia. A very sickening, pathetic thing, because he says it's tarnishing the image of Indonesia that women domestic workers are working. So we need to bring them back. Recently, he sent the Hercules aeroplane to Malaysia to ship back people. So maybe if you could give your comment on women, because I find Indonesian women very liberated, very free women, working equally among their men to go abroad to find food for their family. But you have a president who came to Malaysia, did not say a single word, not a single word about migrants, and says, going back home, that we need to bring back our women because we're a big country, we need to protect the dignity of this country. How do we move forward? Because people see migrants as dirty things. You're talking to a crowd, I do not even know, because in Malaysia, the people who speak about migrants is just a tiny few people. Very few fraction. I think I'm a mad cow talking in every forum, blah, blah, blah. But I'm a very few. So how do we move forward? How do we start discussion? When migrant workers can't even organize because unionization is illegal. But bear in mind, Indonesians burned the factory in Negeri Sembilan because they were so angry. So workers can organize, but how? How do we move forward? What do you think about Jokowi's statement and what is your government doing? Thanks.
Yeah, it's a very deep question, but I'm so impressed with your presentation. Yes, indeed. First, I think I would like to address the issue of the, the competing between local and migrants. And it is not only in Malaysia. Everywhere, migrant workers are always being blamed on what happened to a country. We are being subjected to any abuses. We received a report in US. Children of migrants were just killed on the street simply because a hate. You come here to destroy my society. And now with the crisis, all this kind of hate become intense against Chinese in the US, against African in Canada, against Turkish or any nationality in Europe. It's just become a global trend of discrimination and xenophobia and racism. So now, but beyond that, what you see after the 2008 crisis is the trend of right-wing political parties to raise up, and they are riding the issue of migrant workers as a cause of crisis, as a cause of losing the job of the local people, as a cause of the cut of the subsidy, as a cause of the crisis on the food. Even in Hong Kong, we are seen as a cause of the traffic jam. Can you imagine? Traffic jam. And we are seen as an eyesore because on Sunday we gather under the building, and then this building is like Sogo, it's a high brand, and we sit around because we have nowhere to go. We have no second home. We are not even allowed to live out. Everyone has to live in, and on Sunday, the only place we can go is the park or other place that we can meet on. So now there is very strong, we call it fund racism. There is really an intention of boosting the hate of the local against migrants. And what we found, it is unintentional. And the reason why is because many of government also in crisis and they do not know how to answer the question of their own people. Why all the prices go up? I have children and they need daycare work. I have no money, blah, 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 etc. Why now suddenly the schools will become expensive? And all this question, which is about social protection of the local people, has not given a proper answer by their own government because their own government has put everything to the private company management. The government do not even manage the need of their own people. Can you imagine one thing? We were trying to play around with this drama. What is the contribution of domestic helper to a family? I'm taking the example of Hong Kong. Living in Hong Kong is so expensive. Everything is about money. From the babysitting, like childcare, elderly care, kindergarten, food, everything. So now, if there is no helper, what this family will do? First, before they go to work, they need to bring the children to the daycare center. How much is that? And then when they have elderly, they need to put them in the elderly house. How much is that per month? And when they need someone to tutor their children, they need to hire someone again. How much is that a month? And then when they need to cook or they have no time to even prepare food, they need to buy or hire a local person to cook. How much is that again? And then when they need the house to be clean, they need to hire someone again to clean the house. And how much is that again? So if you compute all these expenses with the absence of domestic worker, no local people will survive, even with their middle income. Yeah? So now there will be a collapse of economy because the women of Hong Kong will all go back to the house because we have 350,000 domestic workers, meaning there are 350 families employing worker. Now, if no helper, all women will have to go back to the domestic work, cleaning the house, and only the husband will earn money. And with the inflation, let's say they earn, I don't know how much, so let's say middle income, is it enough to cover everything? The answer is no. So the government knows that exactly. They will need someone to live in 24 hours in the house for the government and the company in Hong Kong and in China, in Macau, to run. And with that, they will need local women to work for them. So this is the reason why whenever migrant workers is trying to raise up for better wages, higher wages, we want to have right to permanent change employer and change job. You know, I've been there for 15 years. There is no way for me to change job. I cannot even transfer to another type of job because it's not allowed. Once you are stamped with helper, the rest of your life is just helper. Whether, you know, you have company to sponsor you, doesn't matter. You are just helper. You will be just denied. So practically you are locked already and you have nowhere to go, right? And you are not also free to change to one employer to another when you don't like it. You will be tied up by the immigration law. You have to leave Hong Kong, you have to reapply, and when you reapply, you pay another fee to the agency. And if I'm a mother of two, I need to send money to my children. How can I do that? I try to survive in my employer even she is bad, or maybe they are bad, because I need to send money back home. So that kind of dilemma we have, but also that's the reality of the local people. The government refuse to provide the needs of the local people. Now they outsource to the domestic worker, but they actually charge each one of you very expensive also. By neglecting your need, so you have to think of. That's why many cases of abuse in the house, because even the employees are stressful. They are also depressed, you know. They have to think a lot of things, and the last person they will hit is the helper because they are the most powerless people in the house. Unfortunately, we don't say the employees are bad, but the conditions surrounding the house is so bad. Have you been to Hong Kong? It's like a robot, you know. You walk very fast, you talk very loud, you have no time to say good morning, chao san, all this stuff. You live like a robot. What you think every time you wake up is how to earn money. Every time you go home is how to find money next day. Is it true like that?
Yeah.
It's so intense. And because of that, the tension in the house is so intense. And the physical assault, the sexual assault happen in that kind of environment. So that's why for us, we do not blame the employers alone. The main problem is the system of the government itself. If only they give a social welfare to the children, or maybe just daycare center cheap, so that mothers can go and leave their children with reasonable pay of money, and also free elderly care for the elderly. They don't even need domestic workers. Now many will say, yes, that means my people will say, oh, that means you are promoting we lose our job. But now or later, we will not be able to work abroad anymore because this temporary migration is not going to be permanent. We believe the solution of ourselves is our home country. If Indonesia gives what we need, there is no need even to leave the country, right? There is no need. You know, me and my friends, sometimes we talk about this. You know, if only we don't need money in this world, we can live in Indonesia. The only reason why we have to work abroad is because everything is with money. We need transport with money. We need education with money. If only about the food, my house around is already a food. You don't need to go anywhere. But because it's not enough to bring the children to school, to make us to go to hospital, then we have to work abroad. So this is the reality. That's why in our own movement, migrants movement, we are promoting harmony and social partnership with the local movement. We know we cannot fight ourselves. We need the local to fight with us. The movie you saw is a product of our solidarity. They are growing. You see on the street, how to say, on the rally, you see there are many young Chinese people, right? They are the one who actually the product of our engagement. We share a lot like this. We talk a lot. Sometimes we have food together. So I think one way to go, like answering your question, how to move forward. Well, we cannot change the government, but we can change the people. There's no way to change government. It's in their mind. It's their business. Come on, if you change their mind, that means they will become poor and we become equally rich with them, and they don't like it, right? So it's no way to change. That's why even we lobby the ASEAN. We are not trying to change their mind. We know exactly they will never change. The only reason why we want to engage with them because we want to tell them the truth and slap them on the face. That's all. You know, like, oh, you think you already treat the migrant workers well? How could you even say that? And I will tell them, I'm a migrant domestic worker. This is how I live on as a migrant. And you say you are already protecting migrant workers? You are telling lies. Something like that, you know. This is the reason why we engage with the government. But I think what we can change, answering to your question, learning from our experience in Hong Kong, we are two different communities. I don't even speak Chinese much. A lot of my colleagues don't even speak Chinese, but solidarity is possible. How we start with that? A lot of us create social program. Just meet, gather, sharing, you know. For once, can we forget that we are different?
But in Malaysia, domestic workers do not even have one day off. And another thing is, when you compare Hong Kong with Malaysia, Malaysia I think is a third world developing country, and I'm not using it in a bad light because so many other issues that we have to fight and break. It becomes like migrant issues is the last thing on people's head and mind. Because Hong Kong is a quote-unquote second world country, developed in many ways. So there's many issues already uncovered, so people can move. In Malaysia, we have like so many other issues. Yeah.
Yes, I understand. That's why we really understand, and we do not try to ask much, except one thing I think you can do, just remember us whenever you do a campaign. And remember us when you do a gathering. As simple as inviting migrants community to be with you is already enough. You don't need to do like special campaign for migrant workers, etc. You know, because it's not necessary. I understand you face a lot in Malaysia. There is a political suppression in this country. But in the least you can do, I think you can do, is the kind of things that you can do like this. Inclusion, what we promote is inclusion. You know, so doesn't mean you have to fight for a case until the win, because we know exactly the law doesn't even favor to us. But the, you know, like shaking hand and holding them is sometimes is more than enough for us, because we know exactly there is not much you can do also in this battle. But with your solidarity, the least you can do, I think it can.
Hello? Yeah? Do you hear me? Okay, because I want to follow, to try to answer your questions, because I would like to share the experience when I work with the organizations in the Taiwan. It's really very difficult. Even the Taiwan, we also find that very hard to organize the migrant worker, because they also don't have a day off like in Malaysia. But we also try to do that. We can try to find who have a day off. Yeah, especially for the domestic worker in the Taiwan, they are not protected in the regulations. Especially the domestic worker, yeah, they don't have right to have a day off. But in Taiwan, we still have the organization AKI in Taiwan, and more of the member is the domestic worker. Yes, and they only gathering 1 month, 1 time. Yes, but now it's already, I think it's 4 or 5 years, but they still going, growing with slow, but they really try hard. Yes, and I see that they learn a lot from the other country like Hong Kong, like other friends, and they also try to work with the local organizations. They learn how to educate the other migrant worker, to let the other friends to know what is their rights. Even that the early, they're very afraid that to file the case when they have a problem, abuse from the employer. They're really afraid. But migrant workers themselves, they can be stand up and voice out and go to the labor department and then learn the regulations, blah 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 blah. So that means that we just give the chance and space and try to work with them together. Yes.
Thanks.
Right from the beginning, you said that anyone who stands up has to introduce himself. I'm a government pensioner, a teacher pensioner. So I taught in a number of places. I taught in Sabah. While in Sabah, I crossed over to Kalimantan. And I saw that there are so much of land available in Kalimantan. And after my retirement, I went to Jakarta, Jogja, Surabaya, and then all the way to Bali by bus. And then I have been to Medan, to Aceh. And I want to ask some cultural questions because I'm a retired teacher. I'm amazed by this person who speaks quite good Cantonese. I speak Mandarin, I speak my Hokkien, but Mandarin, I understand perfectly 100%, but I find it difficult to articulate. So among the Indonesian mates, how versatile are they in speaking Chinese or Cantonese? And then I noticed you had never mentioned about Singapore. I have a cousin sister who stays in a condominium. He has got an Indonesian maid. She paid her Singapore dollar 1,500. And she is such a versatile lady. Even she entertained me when I go to visit my cousin. And she cooks for all the Indonesian students in Singapore. 20-story high building. And when it comes to dinner time, all the Indonesian students gather at my cousin's house for makan, dinner. And then I have one burning question I want to ask. The Indonesian embassy in Malaysia says, don't call the Indonesians as Indons. Call them, Indonesian. Apa sebabnya? Saya tak erti. Saya tidak mengerti sehingga sekarang. I asked Indonesian workers here, he says, Indon. Kami boleh terima perkataan Indon. I asked my Malay friends in Malaysia, they said, sama saja. But I was surprised that Indonesian embassy came up with such a statement in the Malaysian papers that call us rakyat Indonesia, orang Indonesia, dan bukan Indon. Of course, I have many questions to ask. 我还可以问很多问题的，但是时间可能有限了啊。Thank you, thank you.
actually, I just want to quick respond to Nico because he mentioned about PSM now.
Yes.
Two things. One is talking about that we are blaming that the migrant workers that weaken the.
No, I did not say that. I said that PSM also has said in many events that they believe that migrant workers is allowing competition for local workers to compete with them.
Yes, okay.
So they are blaming it on the competition of migrant
No,
workers.
actually, this is what exactly the local workers think about migrant workers. Whenever the local workers in the actually this whole setup of making the migrant workers vulnerable actually is to weaken the workers as a whole. In that way, very easy. If your local workers wanted to stand up for their rights, for pay rights, what they do, the employers tell the workers you just go out because they can employ migrant workers willing to work long hours and getting paid lower than the local workers. This is how the whole setup of the government, welcoming the workers to work, the migrant workers to work, and without proper protection. And because it will weaken the whole workers, including weaken the workers in Malaysia. We don't have the workers, local movement to support the migrant workers, so it's become. Yeah, it's just a cycle of the workers getting weakened from time to time.
By the coming in of Indonesian.
No, it's the whole setup of the government setup. Yeah, they collude with the employers to make it. That's why we're saying that in order for us to tell, of course, we have to educate our own workers that to build solidarity with the migrant workers. But we can see that the division, the divide and rule, actually since the colonial times, divide and rule. Why they're bringing the British colonial bringing workers from China, from India to work? Because they don't want the local population to rise against them. This is since the colonial time. So we are in a new situation. It's the same, and this is how in Malaysia we are. Why the Indonesia? Because actually compare Malaysia is more developed, but why we cannot provide better protection for the migrants? Because they want to keep the wages low. They want to serve the investors.
So why don't we fight for better wages for
Yes, this is what we are fighting. We are fighting for the minimum wage is for all.
Yeah. PSM has.
And actually, yeah. The thing is, we have two sets of law. Actually, in the labor law, okay, excluded the not recognizing domestic work as work. But in labor, under the Malaysian labor, all the workers are equal, no matter you are local and migrant. But the problem is, the migrant workers they can also come under this immigration law. Whenever you lost your job, you're terminated by the employers. You have become illegal, and you have no right to redress. This is a problem. I think this is a major problem in our legal system in Malaysia, and we have been like a lot of the groups fighting on these issues.
What is PSM's alternative?
We have this campaign right to redress. Which is give the workers have a problem with the employers if they bring their case to the labor department, and they will definitely most of them get terminated. Now they actually can fight their case in the labor court in Malaysia, but they were given a special pass that will allow them to work. Means that they have no right to redress. So we are now. There are groups campaign on to give right for redress for the workers to stay in Malaysia to fight the cases in labor and industrial courts. So this is one of the work on these migrant workers. And so other men, but PSM mainly actually pushing on this right to redress campaign. And the second thing on the levy, actually the levy thing, of course, we say that the employer has to bear the levy. And actually, in 2000, if I remember, 2011, actually the cabinet decision actually is the employer had to bear the levy. But when they introduced the minimum wage in 2013, and another cabinet decision that they want to give leeway for the employers. So it came back to the last time, to the old formula where they give leeway for the employer not to pay the levy in order for them to pay the minimum wage. And of course, we are receiving many cases. We have the hotline, the PSM hotline on the minimum wage. We get many calls, also including many migrant workers not really paid this minimum wage. Yeah, but we meant that levy have to and also getting this levy is not just get the government get the money. Our migrant workers, they go to the hospital, government hospital, they can pay 10 times more than local Malaysian. This is very unfair.
600 times.
Yeah, and a lot of things. And actually, it was, from not from a human rights perspective, it's from a public health perspective. Also, very it's bad for the whole population in Malaysia. That's why we're asking that you have so much of money, so much amount of levy. You should use it for the healthcare of the migrants and also others facilities for the migrants to improve their life. It's important, but of course not burden the migrant workers. It should be the responsibility of this. This is not only my responsibility. Yeah. So yeah.
Actually, PSM is just a quick response. PSM actually, why I'm actually bringing up PSM is because they are the only party who actually talks about migrants in this country. But I think I am actually a member of the Socialist Party and I'm a critique of the party itself, because I think what they have actually proposed is they are talking about limiting the intake of migrant workers in certain industries. So the idea of limiting is already there in the party. So my question always posed to the party is, migration is a real thing. People are migrating because of climate change. By right, Malaysia should be giving everyone in Peninsula, in Sumatra during the tsunami, because they shielded us from tsunami. By right, they should all be given proper rights to come here and work. But PSM and a lot of people in this country are saying, we support rights, this, but we need to come to a time to limit. So this very artificial idea of limiting migration is not going to happen, because migration is happening. And we can't limit migration. We can't say we put a blockade to it. And I think that is the issue. And the issue about language, I think, is because a lot of Malaysians, for the Nepali for instance, the Nepalis works 12 hours. 12 hours morning shift, they go back home and sleep. You don't have interaction to learn the local language. So a lot of migrant workers who are maybe non-Indonesians can't speak the local language, English or Malay, because they have no time to even interact with the local population because of a 12-hour work shift. That is about language law. Yeah.
That's practically the challenge we face everywhere, is how we unify the local and migrants. It's not easy. The local is always rejected. One of the examples we have in Hong Kong, there is a minimum wage legislation for local workers in Hong Kong 3 years ago, 2012. We fight with the local people for 5 years. We demand minimum wage for all, including migrant workers, including migrant domestic workers. And before the legislation was approved, you know what the government did? We will approve everyone except the live-in domestic workers. And who are the live-in domestic workers? 99.99 are the foreign domestic workers. And what does it mean? That means we are not being protected by the legislated minimum wage. Now, what the local union are doing when they respond to that? Many of them are afraid. If we do not allow the exemption of these domestic workers, we will not get protection of the legislation, the local. So why don't we allow the government to exempt first the domestic workers and approve the local, then later on maybe we can fight for the domestic workers. That kind of things happen. We had a lot of debate with the locals that all this division is not helping anyone. Why? First, it is in the interest of the foreign investment of the government to put the fight between two working people. Why? Because if they can lower down the wage of the migrants, they can tell the local people, when you ask for wage increase, why you should ask so much? Look at them, they can even live on by this amount. That's why a lot of campaign for wage increase is always bent down again, even for the local people. They are using the migrant workers as cooperation to people who can live cheap, and why you have to ask more. So it's actually true. The competition on the wages is a means for the government and the investment to put the claim down. But it's also a big challenge to educate our local people to make that an understanding. It's not easy because the local people usually are so afraid. Oh, how if, you know, all this fear around. Yeah, and at the end of the day, there's true we were left behind. So, but we can understand why. It's not something that we hate, but I think something we need to educate more. Now, secondly, answering about the question of language, which is true. Indonesians speak, in Hong Kong and other countries, I don't speak Cantonese because I speak English the most. And if they,
because you work in English-speaking Chinese family.
Yep, precisely. And they don't really need to speak Cantonese. But out of 10, 7 Indonesian will speak the local language. Only 3 will not speak, or much. We will not speak much. And also true for Indonesians who work in Taiwan in the factory, they don't even speak Mandarin. Why? Because they work every day and they finish at night. They sleep in the morning. They go again. They never see other people except their own friend in the same factory, and all of them are the Indonesian. So even they work in Taiwan for 5 years, they will not speak Mandarin.
They don't need to talk.
They don't even need to talk.
They work only.
They work only. That's true. So you know, if we can go beyond this, there is really a need for a program of integration of these migrants into a certain community. But unfortunately, the system today only want their labor. They don't want their human life, right? They don't want them as a human being. They only want us as labor. You work, you sleep, you work, you sleep, you work. That's all. You don't need to do other things. Because Malaysia doesn't need those social life. They only need you to work for Malaysia, not to be part of Malaysia. Right? Unfortunately, it is true. So when we go back to this, actually it's the whole system of globalization, free market, and etc., which is not really in the interest of the people. And the ASEAN, I'm telling you, it is not the people agenda they are promoting about the ASEAN Community 2050. It is not. It is the investment. It is the US who is now desperate how they can consolidate all countries in Southeast Asia without dealing one by one to Malaysia, Indonesia, Burma, Cambodia. In the past, they used to have a lot of bilateral agreement. Now they want everyone in one go by creating ASEAN.
The free trade agreement.
Yeah, including the TPPA. So now they are pushing that by giving us false dream that we can be one Asian countries, one language, one money, one thing, you know, one culture, like Europe maybe, one visa or like that, you know, as if we will be happier after this, as if we will be wealthier after this. But do remember, there are still around 3 million migrant workers in Malaysia. What are you going to do with them? Is this kind of ASEAN community you are going to create on top of the sweat and slavery of the people? It's a question that we are putting to them, right? But of course they will not like this language, right? So anyway, I think the issue here is going back to these things. What we see important is for us as a people from our country, we have to fight for freedom there. We don't want to be migrant workers our whole life. I also want to go home. The question is when and how and what to do after I go back. But the answer is not only a simple answer. It's not about entrepreneurship program, creating small business back home. Because 7-Eleven is already in my hometown. And they crushed my mom's business. She lost her job. You know, she survived on the small business for 20 years. She has to let it go because there is nothing to hold on anymore. Why? Because this is big investor working with my government of Jokowi and allowing them to go inside. 7-Eleven is the trend now. It goes to my village. A lot of market closed. A lot of people I knew try to sell small product. All of them gone. And this is the kind of economy we have. But to do this, we have to educate a lot of people to make them understand it's not only individual problem, it's not only race problem, it's a country problem. It's actually us against the foreign multinational corporation. They are the problem now. And our own government who help them to go inside the country. Now answering your question on Jokowi, what is the policy of Jokowi on migrant workers? They will have roadmap 2015. Do you do this? There is no domestic workers in 2015. That's what they say. Close down domestic workers by 2017. No more domestic workers. Why? Because they are too ashamed. Too many people killed in the Middle East. Not because they want to protect us, because they are too ashamed. There is Erwiana case. If you search later, you can go home and Google Erwiana. Her case is all over media, not only Hong Kong, in the world. She was nominated by Times Magazine. You know, and everything is slapping the face of the government of Indonesia. What have you done to your women domestic workers abroad? Have you really protected them? How come they live in misery? How come they end up in jail and go to prison and go to be killed and hanged in the Middle East? Why? And on this question, our government doesn't know how to answer. What is the answer? No more domestic workers. Give them mobile phone when they go abroad. Give them mobile phone. Oh, we can buy the SIM card. We never even go out. This is a solution they are offering. You know? And then, but the question is, and then now the new program they created, go home and be a trans migrant in Kalimantan and Sumatra.
Why?
Because there is no investment there. They need people to go there. Kalimantan is a big island, right? Still empty, and now investment are going there for big plantation. Who can be the cheap labor there? Instead of importing Chinese from China, they just ask migrants to go home. So this is the third program they are offering. Now the question is, when you hear one, like when you just hear it, seems everything is good. Oh, the Jokowi is really trying their best, protect their women, send them back home, blah blah blah. My basic question is it true Jokowi already created a decent job for their people back home? The answer is no. See, he already signed a loan agreement with IMF and World Bank for 7 major projects in the next 5 years, that including water, dam, and also farm project. All is about agrarian project, and also building the street, and that is new loan to come to Indonesia.
And also with the proton industry to kill more people in accidents in Indonesia.
Precisely, and this thing. So all these things is about new expansion of plantation and businesses in Indonesia. It is not for the people, it is for them. Okay? Now, but Jokowi is also trying to project he is a good government by doing what? He is now creating efficient bureaucracy. How he does that? He lay off a lot of people, reform the internal bureaucracy within the government, but with the purpose of fastening the process of investment. Because they don't have money to pay their own workers, the government workers. So the only way is to lay off many of them. So, but they call it efficiency of the government bureaucracy. So now, going back to the migrant workers, is it true that Jokowi will not send migrant workers abroad? Is a lie. Why? This year there will be 2,000 people, women will be sent to Japan already as a nurse. Another project is going to Australia and New Zealand. They are looking forward to another project of sending migrants to Africa. Yes, they tried to change the name of domestic workers to be a nanny, babysitter, or caretaker, housekeeper. There will be a new name in our contract. But what kind of work we do at domestic work? That's all. So there will be no. And also the truth is, 10 million migrants abroad, 7 million is domestic workers. Do you think Jokowi will be ready to accept 7 million people going home? Mothers of 2, 3, we are supporting subsidizing 4 head in every domestic workers. At least 40 million is in our hand. If we go home, there will be 50 million unemployed completely. Is he ready to accept all this reality? And the second biggest concern, which is more political, is more into the remittances we send back home. We are the second biggest supplier of remittances to Indonesia. Is he ready to lose that money? And the answer is no. So do you think he is very concerned, or is it true that he will do that? The answer is no. But why he is very projecting he is the president of the people? Because he has nothing else to show. He has nothing else to show. And he knows exactly, he wants to try to change a little bit within the government, but doesn't change the whole system of the exploitation in Indonesia. He doesn't want to kick off all this foreign investment who take away all our economy. He doesn't want to break the agreement on the loan with the IMF World Bank. He doesn't want to oppose the World Trade Organization. He was the one facilitating the World Trade Organization. So you have to expect there will be more illegal migrants to Malaysia. Unfortunately, undocumented migrants, smuggled migrants. In Indonesia now, there are many people selling their organ for the sake of money. Because we are too poor to even do. So yeah, I think that's what we have to be ready on. What I want to give you a sign. The global migration is our reality. It is not going to be better. It is going to be worse. There will be more people moving in and out, because they themselves are victims of the poverty back home, the whole system of exploitation. And as a receiving community, we have to be ready with that. In Hong Kong, we don't have undocumented migrants. We have now a lot of undocumented migrants. Although Hong Kong is very strict with the visa, many people become undocumented. Why? Because they do not know what to do when they go home. And it's too difficult to be another migrant worker somewhere else. So at the end of the day, after they become victim of the agency, run away, just be undocumented. So yeah, so I think the message I would like to put, you can help in whatever way you can. If you are a movie maker, maybe just make a movie like him, like Freddy. If you are someone who can offer open house for migrants on Sunday, maybe you can just invite them, just gather and talk, and you can start by sharing how are you, make them feel relaxed for just one day and offer them a food. In Hong Kong now we are promoting local serving the migrants program. How? Many of the local people who are good, employers who are good, they are helping us on Sunday creating the healthcare program. If they are doctor, they check the teeth, they check the body, and sometimes they do nail cleaning, and they do massage. This is the local people doing this. And which is good, because for once they actually try to express their support to us. And it's just maybe 2 or 3 hours program. That kind of simple program you can do. You don't have to create rally on the street program.
Is it volunteer or do they get paid? Is it volunteer or do they get paid? These local self-migrants?
It's actually a welfare services. We do not try to bring the local into campaign. They will say, no. Okay? We promote more welfare services. So we talk to different people, local, if they are expert in certain skill, we ask them, can you come? And we create like this kind of hall, and then that corner is about what, this corner is, sometimes they teach Tai Chi, yoga, stress relief seminar, and something like that, just for 2 hours. And many people like it, so okay. Next, and we now do it in the park, so it's more open. Yeah, so if you are church people, you can do that also. That's why it doesn't have to be very highly political. It doesn't have to be political. That is already a political statement, right? Because when you are embracing other people, it's already a political statement.
What's the scenario in Singapore? What is the situation in Singapore?
The Singapore is second biggest after Hong Kong. Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Singapore. Not by number. Singapore, the wage is after Filipino. There is no employment contract, and also the wage is by competition. So Filipino, Indonesia. Oh yeah, I have to answer about Indon. Why our government is so mindful by Indon? Okay, and then the other nationality. Now the reason why we are pushing our government to have MOU with all government, because we want the employment contract. Maybe Malaysia has no contract for all domestic workers, but maybe at least our government will have MOU with employment contract legally binding for domestic workers, for migrants from Indonesia. At least half of the population is already protected. This is one way for us to push. While you are having hard time of telling them, include us in the labor code, right? Now, Singapore is almost the same, yeah. And except that in Singapore, also the holiday is a problem. It's not legislated. But many of the employers somehow, nowadays, for old people, for people who stay there for some time, they are already given the off. So many of them are able to gather on Sunday. We have organization in Singapore, but no right to speak, right? I think it's the same lah, yeah. So many of them are doing computer lesson, English lesson, and other stuff. But they are doing education through all this skill training. So if you have problem, come to us, and etc. So yeah. Now answering about Indon, I don't know why government of Indonesia is so mindful. I think it's because it's a sign of a slave. When you say is Indon, it's like, oh, you are slave of Indonesia. Because it's only called to the migrant workers. You don't call Indon to student, right? You don't call student Indon.
Bangla, Indon, Pagi.
Yeah?
Always the construction workers.
Precisely.
Yes.
You are referring to unskilled, unprotected people. And they tell you this to remove the Indon language, because not because they care to their migrant workers, but because they feel ashamed. It's their nation. It's about pride. Yeah? Which is one side of that is true, but the other side of that, it doesn't reflect that they will protect their workers. So tell them, if you're mindful about being Indon, you just make sure you protect your workers, then no one will call them Indon.
Before we end the session, do you want to say a few words?
Thank you. Saya akan bicara bahasa Indonesia. Terima kasih sudah dikasih kesempatan untuk bicara. Saya adalah mantan buruh migran di Hong Kong, dan karena organisasi buruh migran yang membuat kasus saya diterima oleh pemerintah Hong Kong, dan sekarang majikan saya juga di penjara. Dan kalau bukan karena teman-teman, kawan-kawan dari buruh migran rally turun ke jalan, kasus saya cuma dianggap kasus lain-lain, dan pemerintah Hong Kong tidak akan memperhatikan kasus saya. Dan sekarang saya juga bergabung dengan organisasi di Indonesia, dan dari situ saya belajar dari pengalaman saya, sehingga saya bisa move on dari masa lalu saya. Thank you.
Thank you, Rihanna, and also Annie, for this very interesting and informative discussion and topic. I think from the beginning, you have provided us a good picture on how and why all this happened, and what's happening in Indonesia, and what the governments are doing. And after that, we have a very, very wide discussion from the name, the culture, the language, and all kinds of aspects that is normally not interested by many others. I think, like you said, migration is a byproduct of globalization and the neoliberalism world that we're living in. We can't escape from that. And the relationship between the ordinary people and the migrant workers are always distant. because we always judge from afar, and instead of having a real conversation with most of them, because I think the relationship is often divided by class. Normally it's employers and employees, and you don't really make friends with them, like for most of the people. So I think, yeah, where should we start? Because that's the question. That's the question that I keep thinking. I think it's just to be more inclusive, and yeah, to give them a voice, and to really listen to them and their struggles, their challenges, the things that they face, and yeah, listen to their stories. And we're really honored to have you and Urana to be here to share with us the stories and the communities, and the fight is still going on. Yeah, so thank you for everyone to join this sharing and the movie session.